Yeah, and I mean, Kevin O'Connell was another name that was kind of flying around there for a little bit, and it didn't really seem like it gained any traction. Obviously, had a clear preference to go and work for a first-time GM, which for a first-time head coach is a bit of a risk. But I think the pool of candidates that were in this race are a direct result of the dysfunction that you've continued to show. And then not only that, when and everybody, as you said, and another, talking about those narratives out there about, Caserio doing this great job in year one. Well, you've botched the first coach hire. You've then had a really disjointed, ugly, slow process to then take over 3 weeks, be the second last team, take the longest from firing to hiring by any team. And by the time you hire somebody, you just turn around and hire your defensive coordinator who's already been in the building for a year. Okay, you promote your QB coach. So, they're selling it as an element of stability. And they referenced that a number of times yesterday about, we've had that base year. We're almost going to get off to a fast start. We've had, the opportunity that you wouldn't normally have, taken a head coaching role on like this and all this kind of stuff. But I think my point, I was just thinking when I was watching it, Brandon, is just like, what's changed? If this was your plan and your market of coaches was so shrunk because agents are warning against you, don't touch that club right now, they're not in a good place, their clients don't want to interview you, they might have asked Gerald Mayo, but probably, he's just got a nice Hellman's advert for the Super Bowl, so he's probably all right for money, probably in a nice place, happy to take his time. There's probably a number of guys that they didn't even publicly release because they probably just point blank refused to take it any further in terms of the process. So they've put themselves in that situation. And I want to definitely dive into Caserio before we finish up. But the point of trying to say, oh, well, it's continuity. Well, continuity of a 4-win season, continuity of a team who was heavily penalised, continuity of a team who could not piece drives together so many weeks in a row, that had unwatchable football at times after having a full preseason with no interruptions with COVID. There's no excuses. There's a brand new coaching staff that you hired, that you gave to a coach who was a clear patsy. So continuity of that, and that's what you've got to think as well. And okay, like a lot of the coaching staff have moved out, and it looks like, Lovie will get to bring in his own guys, and it maybe shows a bit of a softening of Caserio as he learns how to be a GM. But I think the continuity element of, there's very few things we want to take over from this season to the next, but I just don't understand how you can kind of sell that, because if that was the case, you could have hired him last year. If that was the case, you could have hired Leslie Fraser. If that was the case, you could have hired, what's that guy's name? I always forget him now. The one that was
Jim Caldwell.
Jim Caldwell. There you go. So, there would be no difference in material outcome, because at the end of the day, this roster is poor, right? And I keep going back to the fact that that the McCowan thing doesn't leave this discussion in that sense, because so you've got McCowan, who may or not be on the coaching staff, and Lovie Smith yesterday seemed very abundantly open to it. So this might be their way to shoehorn him into this. And look, if everybody's on the same page with that, and great, then that's cool. If everybody, if Lovie's on the condition that, look, I'll run this for a few years, he's got to earn it, but we're going to give him a chance to come into the building and do that. But I think that creates an environment of distrust, because regardless if he's had any coaching experience, he's still linked to Jack Easterby. So regardless of the intentions of his capability or his potential as a coach, he's still not earned anything. So, maybe Lovie's okay with that, and that's the long-term plan. And actually right now, it's almost kind of difficult to get upset about the head coach, because the point you made earlier, we need to find players, and we need to find guys who can make a difference on both sides of the ball. So until we're at that point, all of this is kind of academical in some sense. So, if there is this grander plan that they've pushed out, and because of, all the public dynamics of all this kind of Flores stuff has pushed them into that point, then okay, fair enough. And maybe that is the plan, and that'll come to light in the fullness of time. But it feels like the continuity aspect, you could have done that last year. So it just goes to show last year was a waste of time. This year potentially is a waste of time. And the best bit is you can't sack him now after 2 years. You're going to have to give him a minimum 2 years. You can't. There's no way they could do that. If you go back to that whole optics thing, if that was the thing they truly cared about, Lovie's got at least 2 years at this, at absolute minimum. You got to think.